So today I'm just going to kind of go through my life growing up into the professional game, my foot and ankle problems I've had through my career, and where I am today and where I want to be in the future. So not as my presentation isn't as sophisticated, it's going to be some pictures, and we start with where it all started. There's me at 8 months old. The first thing I had in front of me was a soccer ball. So from day one, as he had mentioned, my dad was a semi-professional soccer player in England and South Africa. So first thing at my feet was a soccer ball. And I walked so young, my parents always say, because I was trying to keep up with my older brother. Me and Stephen are a little less than 2 years apart, 1 year in school. So I was always trying to keep up with him. And so I'll change that picture quick, so growing up, my dad would come home from work, and me and my brother would be at the front door as soon as he walked in, wanting to play soccer. So we'd be, Dad, can we go play soccer in the backyard? And he'd be, yeah, of course. So he'd go off and get changed out of his suit, and me and my brother would get changed into our Tottenham Hotspur's kits every day because we had to be dressed for the occasion. And my dad would come out in the backyard every day. It was great, I'm sure begrudgingly sometimes. So we would go out in the backyard. My dad was actually quite clever because we were both very good from a young age. So my dad would make rules in the game. So he would try to use the time to make us better. So oftentimes, like one of his favorite rules was you can only use your left foot. So we'd go out and we'd start playing, and we were so competitive. It'd be me and my brother against my dad because we weren't allowed to compete against each other at home. And if one of us used our right foot to get an advantage, like, all right, I'm going in, and we'd have to beg him to stay out and play with us. So, and from that young age, it put that in the back of our minds to try and make your weaknesses your strengths, and it helped both of us going forward, especially my brother, who turned almost all his weaknesses into strengths to get to where he did athletically, and it also helped me. So from a young age, my dad was instilling these in us, and having one car growing up, and me being quite a good athlete at the time, I always played up a year in everything on my brother's teams, so it was easy for my parents to take us both. So growing up, we played everything. My parents, being new to Canada, thought, well, we'd try everything. So we played soccer, baseball, basketball, volleyball, rugby, and hockey. So me playing on my brother's teams in soccer or in hockey up a year, but we were very competitive. We had that sibling rivalry and always competing, always getting after each other. And I remember one game we were playing, and he didn't pass me the puck, so next time I didn't pass him the puck. It was one of those games, and he's coming taking the puck off me, and then I steal a puck, I get a breakaway at the blue line. He's asking for the puck, coming after me, yelling at me, and I can see him out of the corner eye starting to skate towards me like he's going to take the puck off me again. So, and I'm fuming by now, and so what I decided to do is I'm just getting inside the blue line. I leave the puck, and I start skating after him and chasing him around the ice. So, sometimes it went a little bit too far, but usually it was quite good. But it was the only time I'm going to chase him around was when I'm in full gear and pads, because as you can see, he's always been about 5 inches taller than me and a little bit bigger, so I'm not going to chase him around if I don't have pads on. So anyways, by about the time we were in this is grade 9, so 8 or 9, basketball kind of became our number one sport. Really was soccer and basketball. We were still playing soccer, but all our friends played basketball, so we really got into basketball. And in the playground, instead of playing soccer now, we're always shooting hoops, playing 2-on-2, 3-on-3, just because that's what our friends did. So I vividly remember, I think it was our second trip of that year. I remember the gym we were at in North Vancouver. I remember the team we were playing still. I'm guarding someone off the ball and near the free throw line, and a shot comes up from the corner. I come flying in, jumping up, and I could jump really high for a little guy. And I come down squarely on my right foot on top of someone's foot, and my ankle just goes. And I'm rolling around the floor, and if I really think about it, it kind of makes me shake a bit now, thinking about that moment. And my ankle just ballooned up. So it didn't take long, within a few minutes. So back then, it didn't really do anything. All you were told, ice and elevate. So ice and elevate and wait for the swelling to go down. So I'm hyperactive and want to keep playing sports. So about 2 weeks, I'm starting to try to run on it, and it's hurting a little bit. And by the third week, it was okay to play. It was black and blue, but I could move and run in straight lines. So I start training again, and by week 4, which is probably way too early, I'm just taping it, and off I go, because I just want to be playing. So over the next couple of years, I with the tape, I keep getting little sprains here and there, and what slowly starts to happen is it takes me 4 or 5 minutes, and I'm able to play again. So I'll just get up and play. And the tape was just holding my ankle together enough that it wasn't severe enough to really need to take time off, and it probably wasn't a great thing for me over time. But so I just kept playing, and not a lot of people know that I actually kind of went the basketball route first. I was playing U Sports basketball, which is now U Sports basketball at Brandon University in Manitoba, and I had a year there, and before I came back to soccer. So I came back from university. I didn't have a great experience, so I was looking at what I was going to do next, and I got a call from Bruce Wilson, who played on the 1986 World Cup team for Canada in soccer, and he said, "Look, I've put your name forward for the Canadian Under-20 national team." And I hadn't played soccer in 7 months, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "This weekend you're going to go to Vancouver. You can get in a car. There's 4 other kids going, and you can go have a tryout, play a game, and come back and see how you do." So, well, okay. And got off the phone. I'm like, "Great, this sounds fun. I love playing sports." So it was my first love. So I'm getting ready the day before, and I realize I don't own a pair of soccer boots anymore. So I had to go out and buy a pair of soccer boots. We go over to Vancouver. I had 1 training session and go down to the University of Portland, and which is one of the best programs in the States at the time. And so I play the first half. I scored 2 goals, and I remember it was a really hot day, and it's one of those things you vividly remember. And at halftime, I walk over to the bench, and the locker room's the other direction, just to get some water, because there's water there. So I'm getting water, and I'm walking back. And the last one in the locker room, the 2 coaches are standing outside the door, and they're like, "Where have you been?" And I'm like, "Oh, just getting some water." And they're like, "No, where have you been?" And I'm looking at them blankly. And they're going, "Playing basketball? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so they go, "Well, you've made the team." And I'm like, "Already? After 1 game? Yeah, you're on the team." I was like, "Okay." So they said, "Stick with us, and you're going to have a great career in soccer." So I kind of flipped back to my first love and started playing soccer again. So this time in soccer, still taping my ankle for soccer, and I found with the grass I wasn't having a lot of trouble with my ankle. So the next couple of years was quite good. I played 1 year with Vancouver and went to England and played 4 years in. I played in so if there's the Premier League in England, as you probably all know, I played in the two leagues below it for 4 years, and before I decided to come back to. Where did I come back to? Sorry, I came back to Montreal. And I was playing in Montreal, and now at this time, field turf came in. And I hadn't had many issues with my ankles, but I'd never done any treatment. It just kind of dealt with the problem by taping them. So I come back to Montreal, and we're playing on this horrible turf, and now I start spraining my ankle again. And because my ankles were so weak, they rarely ever swelled, and I just get up and start playing again. So by the time I walked off the pitch from the injury, I could come back on and just keep playing. And while I'm thinking this is great, because it's sprain my ankle and go play, it's great in my mind. It wasn't great for my body. So within probably a year of coming back to Montreal, I developed plantar fasciitis in the same foot. So they go and have an X-ray, and I have 2 bone spurs in the arch of my foot. So tried a few different things that didn't work at the time, and I just kept playing through it, because once I warmed up, the pain would go, and I was able to play. And so I just as I played through it at about 3 months later, I develop another issue in the same foot. I get what's called Morton's neuroma. For you that don't know, there's in between these 2 toes in your feet it's basically a pinched nerve in there. And it's probably the most excruciating pain I've had in my life. So every time I stepped, it was like getting an electric shock in my foot. So now I've got plantar fasciitis and Morton's rheuma in a weak ankle. So then at this time, there wasn't really much being done. I got a couple cortisone shots in my foot, stay off for a week or two and see what happens. So I'm about 28 at this time, and they get insoles in my foot. So I went, and I don't know if it's still around, but at the time it was a machine called the Foot Max, where you had a pad on the floor and you walked across it, and it measured where measured how you planted, how your foot moved, and designed an insole to make you walk correctly, and put a metatarsal pad under the neuroma so it wouldn't hurt anymore. So the pain of that actually went within 3 weeks, and I had to wear those insoles for the next 7 years of my career. But up to this point in my career, if you had a medical before in preseason to be cleared to play, you went into the doctor's office, and within 15 minutes, it was like, all right, you're good to go, just like any other going to a medical, right? So there wasn't a lot being done. And then about the age, I think I was about 29, I came back to Vancouver Whitecaps to play. And that's the middle picture there. It was about that time in my career. I finally came into preseason, and we went there. Okay, medicals are at SFU, and we're thinking weird. No, they're at SFU, so I guess the doctor's coming to us, and that's where we trained. And you get there, and now we saw a surgeon, we saw the medical doctor, we saw a physiotherapist, posture specialist. They had all these different people that we saw, right? So you went in and you saw them all, and what happened at the end now, they looked at each player individually and made a plan. So we came into the first day of camp, and they, once you were cleared, and they said, okay, look, here's your issues. So mine obviously was very weak ankles, and my other issue was because I'm just heavy at the front. I didn't have my glutes didn't fire all the time, so they could give me other issues. So now they made a plan for me that I had to do before every training session and game. So obviously, for me, it was some proprioception work, some balance work. I had bands that you put around your foot, so you're warming your foot up before training and games to make sure the muscles and everything's moving properly. And I did the same thing for my glutes. But it took so long for me for the research to come in the game and it to be for me to get a plan of how to deal with it with research. And that was part of the reason I was interested in this. And I had a chance to go to the McCaig Institute of Bone and Joint Health to see some of the stuff they were doing because I was very interested in it. They had some great studies going on. I got to see the extreme CT scanner, which is a little CT machine that you can just put extremities in, and they're doing a cool study with the Olympic Paris figure skaters, where they're testing their bone density, and with the whole goal of trying to predict and prevent injury to keep the figure skaters on the ice as much as possible. I saw there was a cool one on a treadmill that you walked on and had x-ray machines, and they took imaging of your knees as you walked, so you could actually see a video x-ray of how the bones and the joints are moving, which was really cool. And they were doing some extremely cool research on stem cells in cartilage. They were able to regrow cartilage in mice, and obviously the goal eventually is to be able to do that in humans. So there's some extremely cool work going on, and it's that kind of research that I've seen from the start of my career to the end of my career that has really come into play. And you see athletes more and more, athletes like my brother, who are able to play for 20 years at a high-level professional environment, because the more and more studies that go on, the more and more we know about the human body, the more and more athletes are able to keep themselves fit and at a top level. So at this time in my life now, my ankles are still weak. They are better than what they were. by the time when I was just nearing the end of my career, just before I got into all the prehab, I would walk down the side of the road, and you know this pavement and the grass is like this. I would step on that crack and over I'd go. I'd be rolling around like Neymar at the World Cup. And my wife would be looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And that's to the extent my ankles got that weak. They've gotten a little bit better with the work I've been doing, and I try to keep that work up to kind of strengthen them. But to this day too, if I go on a long haul flight, my ankles balloon up. I get off the plane and I'm like, my right ankle's twice the size of my left, and it's tough because now you go somewhere and you want to be, and I'm active. I want to be active, and it makes things tough, and it takes 2 or 3 days to settle down. And if I keep going on them, it just delays the time of them going down, and it is a little bit uncomfortable. So hopefully this kind of research will help people like me in the future be a little bit more active, because at the end of the day, I want to be, and I'll end with this, like my dad. He's the gray-haired one here, 71 years old, making a run for Alessandro Del Piero, who played for Italy in the World Cup. But my dad's still active. I talk to my dad. I talk to him all the time. I talked to him 2 days ago, and he played in 3 soccer matches this week at 71 years old. He plays in a typical week. Throughout the year, he plays 2 soccer matches and 3 tennis matches. So he stays very active, and that's what I want to be when I'm 71. And I really got to take care of myself to be like that, but that's my goal in life, to be like my dad. Thank you.